Hi everyone, it's Sintang Mayumi. I'm back with another video. In Love Arts reached out to me and asked me if I would like to try some of their products, and I said yes. So they sent me some of the products that I chose on their online store. I was amazed with all the products they have. They have a lot of beautiful dies and stamp sets to choose from, and the prices are all affordable. Links of these products are in my description box below, as well as 15% off coupon code. The first one that I have here is Christmas Sentiments, and it's called Winter Series Greetings Word Stamp Set. You will see how I use the sentiments in my cards today. This set of wreath dies are so pretty when you die cut it with glitter paper. I also have this intricate heart die with birds and flowers, perfect for Valentine's Day cards. This one is my favorite. I use this as centerpiece on my card, and you can also use this die set to make light up cards, which is I love to create. And the last one is this set of 3 different sizes of stars, and this one is super cute and versatile. You can do a lot with this die set. Let's begin by die cutting 2 of the wreaths die with green and red glitter papers, and this die cuts like butter. And I'm just using my poke tool here to remove all the pieces that we don't need. And look how pretty that is with the green glitter paper. I also die cut this red glitter paper and use the wreath that has berries. And again, I remove all the pieces that I don't need and use my poke tool. For my panel, I will use all the sentiments from the stamp set. I will arrange them on the panel first, and after I arrange the words, I will pick them up with the door of my Misti, and I'm using my Misti so I can stamp them multiple times if I need to. Before I ink up the stamps, I will prep my panel with anti-static powder tool first, and then I'm going to use Versamark ink because I will emboss this with white embossing powder. And then I just fill in this side of the panel with clear black, and I'm going to add the Merry Christmas on the upper part of the panel and stamp it with Versamark ink as well. And then I'm going to pour some of the white embossing powder and will melt those powders with my heat tool. After we are done with the stamping and embossing, I will add some colors on the panel, and I will use 3 colors of Oxide inks, and I chose Blueprint Sketch, Chipped Sapphire, and Wilted Violet. The blending on these 3 colors are so easy because I use blending brushes and I love these color combinations. And we're just finishing the blending part and we'll move on to the next step. After the blending is done, I'm going to buff off the inks on top of the embossed sentiments, and you will see that they resist the inks on the panel. I will pull out my Gansai Tambi Starry colors, and I will use the red gold ink for splattering. I will add a few drops of water to activate the paint, and I'm just using I think this brush is number 2, and then I'm going to splatter the paint on the panel, and I have my empty box here so the paint is not going everywhere on my desk. I have my circle die to die cut the middle part of my panel, and I'm also going to die cut the panel with stitch rectangle die set from Gina Marie Designs. I will inlay the positive die cut on my card base, and to make sure it is exactly in the middle, I will temporarily adhere or tape it down on the sides with washi tape, and then I will inlay the circle die cut in the middle. After I adhere the die cut circle in the middle of the card base, I will then remove the panel, and I will begin adhering the red and green wreath on the circle of the panel. And I'm just using glitter glue here, and we'll just adhere those two wreaths in the middle. After I adhere those wreaths down in front of our card, I'm going to adhere this clear acetate on the back of the panel, and I'm just using strong double-sided tape and going to manipulate this double-sided tape to curve on the circle. And I can remove the release paper, and then we can put down our acetate. I went ahead and add my foam tape, and before I remove the release paper, I will use my anti-static powder tool to brush the sides of the foam tape so the sequins doesn't stick on the sides. For these shaker pieces here, I used one of the wreath die and just die cut the circles or the berries of that wreath die with scraps of green and red glitter paper, and then I'm going to adhere some of them on the circle with glitter glue, and then I will also add tiny clear sequins from my stash. I thought I needed more tiny sequins, so I added more of them, and then I will remove the release paper from the foam tape and will adhere this on the panel or card base. For the inside of the card, I die cut another one of this wreath with leaves, and I use my scraps of green glitter paper. I will adhere it on the lower right corner of the card and cut the excess that are hanging off the card with my scissor. So our first card is done, so let's move on to the next one. For our second card, I will use the heart die, and I really like this intricate die. The birds and the flowers are really pretty on this die cut. So I'm just using my Poke tool here to remove all the pieces that we don't want on our die cut. I die cut this with Paper Tree Ink Poppy cardstock, and this card is going to be a Valentine's Day card. After I poke all the pieces, I will add some shimmer using my Spectrum Noir Sparkle pen on this heart die cut. For our panel, I'm going to use wood grain paper from Miss Sparkle & Co. paper pad that I got from Joanne. I will cut it to A2 size panel, 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. And then I will adhere this panel, wood grain panel, on our A2 size card base. I'm going to stamp my sentiment on the lower part of the panel with Fine Onyx Black ink, and I think this stamp, Happy Valentine's Day stamp, is from Tim Holtz Things/Talk stamp set. And then I can adhere this heart die cut on the card with liquid glue. You can also use stick-it adhesive to make your life easier when adhering this intricate die cut on your card. You can add the stick-it adhesive on the back of the paper before die cutting it. But I don't have the stick-it adhesive, so I just use the liquid glue. For my embellishment, I'm going to use this red gems or diamonds from Little Things from Lucy's cards. And I'm going to adhere them with glossy accents. For the inside of the card, I have leftover of the pattern paper, the wood grain pattern paper that I use in front of the card. So I'm going to add it in the inside of the card as well. And our second card is finished. I really like the shimmer on this heart die cut. For our third card, I'm going to use the candle dies with holly berries. This card is my favorite card out of the 4 cards I made today. I begin by die cutting the pieces with colored paper scraps from my stash. And for the candle die, I have scraps of watercolor paper, so I use that one. And I'm just finishing the die cutting part, and we'll move on to the next step. After I die cut all the pieces, I will adhere them with glossy accents. I like this die set because it's a good size and the pieces are not teeny tiny. I get frustrated when I have teeny tiny pieces of die cuts, and it's really hard for me to put them together. So I like the size of this die cut pieces here. For our panel, I have Bristol paper cut to 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. I'm going to add background color on the back of the candle, and I'm just using the pattern paper and the candle to know where to place the color. And the color I'm using here is, I think, Mustard Seed Distress Oxide ink. I'm going to do some splattering again on my panel, so I added a few drops of water to activate my gold paint, and then I pull out my empty box and place my panel inside and splatter the gold paint on the panel. And I'm just using my finger to flick the paint on the paper. Then we can adhere everything together. So I'm going to adhere the pattern paper, this plaid paper, on the lower part of the card, and then I'll just trim off the excess with my scissor. And then we can also adhere this die cut piece, the candle with holly with berries. I added foam tape on top of the flame to pop it up a little bit. For the sentiment, I will use one of the sentiment from the stamp set and stamp it on my scraps of shimmer paper with Versafine Onyx Black ink. And I'm using my mini Misti here to stamp the sentiment a few times if I need to. And then I will emboss the sentiment with clear embossing powder, and then I will heat set it with my heat tool. And then I will trim the sentiments with my Fiskars bypass trimmer. And we can adhere this sentiment on the lower part of the panel. And I'm just going to line that up, and I'm going to use the lines on the plaid to make sure it's straight. For the inside of the card, I cut another panel, and I'm going to stamp Merry Christmas in the middle of the panel with Kaleidocolor Tomato Vine ink. And then we can adhere this in the inside of the card. And our panel is side folding A2 size card base. And this one is the Paper Tree Ink Pure Poppy cardstock. For the embellishment, I will add some shimmer on the flame of the candle and the holly berries using my Spectrum Noir Sparkle pen. And my third card is finished. I love how this card turned out. For the last card, I will use the star die set. I end up not using the largest star from the set because it didn't fit on my card. But that larger star die is good size for tags, and of course you can use it on cards too on different designs. For our panel, I'm using watercolor panel here. I'm going to add color on the panel using Daniel Smith Phthalo Blue Green shade. I'm going to add the paint all over the panel until I'm satisfied with the color, and then we'll dry this with my heat tool. After the panel is dry, I'm going to add some splatters on this panel as well. I will add white and gold splatters on the paper. And I'm using clear black this time. This is much easier than using my finger to flick the paint. After the splattering is done, I'm going to set this aside to dry, and we'll move on to the next step. For the stars, I'm going to also add color on them, and I chose the Daniel Smith Paro Red, Sap Green, and I think this pretty blue color is Cobalt Teal Blue. And I will dry them with my heat tool as well. I used two of the wreaths again and die cut it with red and green glitter paper, and we are going to adhere them on the upper part of the panel. I taped them down with washi tape to hold them together while adding the glossy accents on the back of the die cut. And then I will adhere them on the panel and carefully remove the washi tape, and then I will adhere some of the ones that didn't adhere well. And then I'm going to cut the excess with my scissor. I'm going to poke some holes where the wreaths are and going down to the stars so I can add my metallic thread, and these stars are going to be our ornaments. I'm going to use eye needle to help me thread the string in the holes. After the strings are all in, I'm going to tape the back of the panel to secure the strings, so when I adhere the stars on the in front of the panel, the strings are not going to move. And let's go ahead and adhere our stars on the panel, and I will arrange them the way I like them to be on the panel. And then after we adhered all three of the stars, I'm going to cut the excess string with my scissor. I also made some bows out of the metallic thread of camera, and I will adhere them on top of the stars with glossy accents. And I will cut the excess metallic thread from the bows with my scissor. For the sentiment, I'm going to use Merry Christmas from the stamp set, and I'm going to stamp it on the lower part of the panel with VersaFine Onyx Black ink. And again, I'm using my mini Misti to stamp the sentiment a few times if I need to. For the inside of the card, I'm going to stamp another sentiment from the stamp set, and I'm going to stamp this one with Kaleidocolor Tomato Vine ink. I added foam tape on the back of the panel, and I'm just removing the release paper, and we'll go ahead and adhere this panel on our A2 size top folding card base. And our 4 cards using In Love Arts products are finished. I love how my cards turned out. This card is my favorite from out of the 4 cards that I made today. Don't forget to check out In Love Arts online store. All the links will be in the description box below, as well as 15% coupon code. I hope you like these cards as much as I do, and as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye bye.